All right. Going to be doing another comic review from a book sent to me by my friend Chris. Thank you as always, brother. Today we're going to be talking about Spirits of Vengeance, Vengeance Unchained. This was a comic written by, I'm going to butcher this name, Sabir Prezada? And yeah, so this comic is obviously a Ghost Rider book. And it's a very interesting book because it seems like it's written by a Ghost Rider fan for Ghost Rider fans. This comic basically is like, if you don't like Ghost Rider, don't read this book. Even if you're like a casual fan of Ghost Rider, don't read this book. You have to be like a diehard, like absolutely like, yeah, all Ghost Rider all the time. Because I feel like that's who it's really meant for. Because there's stuff in here that you're not going to really understand if you don't. And I'm going to try my best to like explain the book. So obviously this book is Johnny and Danny are in here, but the real, I guess you could say the real main focus is this guy right here. That's Vengeance, aka Michael Bandolino. Don't know who that is, I'm going to have to explain it. So Michael Bandolino was in the Dan Ketch run, and basically he basically became Ghost Rider to fight Ghost Rider after making a deal with Mephisto because essentially what had happened was his father, due to Mephisto's machinations, became a raging alcoholic and set his whole house on fire and murdered his wife and daughter, Michael's mom and sister. So Michael made a deal because he's like, oh, it was Ghost Rider's fault. So Mephisto made a deal with him, he became Vengeance, but then he realized, oh, Ghost Rider was the good guy all along, and it's a whole thing. He kind of got thrown to the wayside, and even another character took on the name Vengeance that was also a villain who showed up in, I think, Secret Avengers. So yeah, but the main story is it's more setup, because this clearly was meant to be an ongoing. Thankfully, Spirits of Violence is going to be the sequel to this. Anyway, and it also does feel like this comic was meant to be an ongoing because there's so much in here that gets crammed in 6 issues. Also, this whole Spirit of Violence they've been building up, you don't see them at all. I mean, you find out who they are at the end of the story, and I'm not going to spoil that, but it is a character in the Ghost Rider mythos. Anyway, so Johnny has gotten word of this and is now trying to find the other Ghost Riders. First Danny, and then try to find Michael. But at the same time, the Spirit of Vengeance, Vengeance's ghost Zala, is finally reawakened after just being a skull on a scarecrow for like years, and is woken up by a woman being sexually assaulted in a cornfield. It's very uncomfortable. But then Vengeance wakes up, and then the guy's uncle, dad, because he says uncle, and then he calls him, and then the guy says my son. And I'm like, someone needed to proofread that moment. But yeah, then it's a bunch of hillbillies who release a velociraptor on him, and Vengeance beats it to death with a tractor. I'm not going to give you any more context for that, because that's when the comic went from good to great. So we follow Ghost Rider. Trying to explain this comic is difficult because there's so many ideas that are like just completely jam-packed into this book that it's really kind of annoying, if I'm being honest. Like, there's so much in here, and it's very clear Prezida knows their shit when it comes to Ghost Rider, because like there's so much stuff that is in here, and also referencing stuff straight from like the 80s and even the 70s. Kowalski, the other Vengeance, is also brought in here when the real Vengeance shows up. You also have references to Ghost Rider 2099, Robbie Reyes. The only ones who don't get referenced are the 2 female Ghost Riders, the Spirit Rider, and I forget the other female Ghost Rider's name. But yeah. We also talk about Johnny's relationship with Talisman, who does die in this book unceremoniously, which I was like, wow, I forgot he and I even was like, were Talisman from Alpha Flight, were she and Ghost Rider, her and Johnny Blaze a thing? I don't remember that. Shows how much I know about my Ghost Rider knowledge. Anyway, it's all about this whole thing of trying to save Michael. That's that's this whole arc thing of, and also building up to get ready for fighting the spirit of violence. And there's so many things that happen in this book that are just like, wait, what? Like the whole thing with Michael Bandolino and why this group brought him back from hell in order to torment him to get the spirit of violence to come after him. Yeah, this comic is so like scatterbrain in writing and also tries to do so much. But at the same time, I can't deny that there's like some really solid knowledge of Ghost Rider here. And there's some pretty cool stuff in here. But I also have the whole thing, and this is not directed at Prozita themselves. The problem is, the other thing is too, is that, and this is writers in general, no one knows how to write the Ghost Rider entity. Ben Percy was more like a slasher villain. Same with Jason Aaron. And here it's like they're just talking normal. And I've seen that multiple times where all these writers just don't know how, like modern day writers just can't pick a lane to pick how to write Zarathos. And yeah. All in all, the comic is pretty fun, but I wouldn't recommend it to unless you're like a diehard Ghost Rider fan. Because this is, again, this is not a knock. It's just like this is a very Ghost Rider heavy comic. So you're gonna have to also there's like so many conflicting stories that build up to the next act in Spirit of Violence, which I hope works. But yeah. Anyway, so it's good. I would just say this is more of a Ghost Rider comic for Ghost Rider fans. This isn't something I would pick up right out the gate, if I'm being honest. Like, this is not something I would like be like, oh, this looks cool, I want to read more Ghost Rider. This is not that book. But yeah, still liked it. But anyway, you guys tell me in the comments below if you've read Spirits of Vengeance, Vengeance Unchained, excuse me. Let me know in the comments below. Chris, thank you once again. And other than that, I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time, Multiverse.